Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Review Crew. I am your host, Jamie Laszlo, and today we got a cool crew. We got Karen LaPreciosa, we got Ryan Scow, we got Eric Porter, all in the house, and they got some albums they want to talk about. And look at this, 5 months into this show, and we are still on the air. About 4.5 months longer than I expected.
I like this show. I
I
really
like
know,
it
it's
too.
fun.
Right.
And you know what? It's going to take a lot for this show to get canceled because you know why? Pete doesn't have to do shit. He gets Saturday night content,
No.
and all he has to do is give it a damn thumbnail and upload it. Done.
Couldn't be easier.
Like, we'll have to get like 10 views or less to really get it canceled, I think.
Yeah.
So Karen has one album she wants to talk about. The rest of us have two. So what we're going to do is we're going to go with Eric, Ryan, Karen, myself, and then one more time with Eric, Ryan, and myself. So Eric, start us off with your first album from 2024 that you want to talk about.
Okay, so my first album, this is one that we heard about from Ken Golden, and actually Pete did a review of this on one of his Wednesday review days. It's a band called Paila. They're from Finland. Helsinki, I believe, is where they're based out of. And this was a weird one because I put this on, and I'm going to sound like Mr. Nasser, but on first listen, I'm like, it's a little happy, like a little too cheerful. And kind of went through, been listening to some other new music, but for some reason I kept going back to it. And it's one of those albums that it's not, which I usually listen to mostly instrumental music. There's some vocals on this. A lot of it kind of reminds me of like it has a 70s soul funk vibe kind of, but there's horns. It's really upbeat stuff. The vocals are very good. I'm not always, like I said, big on vocals, but the vocals are done very well, except for the last track, which, and I don't like to always say stuff bad, but it's a pretty corny vocal. But the fact that it's the last song on the disc, you know, you can kind of get through it and skip it and not worry about it. They have horns, there's guitars, there's just a lot of stuff that's going on. So I think initially it was more, and I'm even thinking this would be a good one for Pete's series this month, where it's like summer albums, because it's just a really cool album. You go out and the only seal of approval I can give to it is, even if you're not a fusion fan or an instrumental fan, I actually played this in the car with my wife. She didn't tell me to turn it off. So
I do that test too sometimes.
Yeah, right.
Put it in, and you look at the facial expressions and the reactions.
Exactly. And I'm thinking, okay, if she can listen to this, it's, and like I said, I think it's song based, so it's not really like a chops fest, but at the same time, when you really listen to it, there's a lot of really intricate stuff going on, but it all works for the music. There's horns, so sometimes there's like a Chicago vibe to it. I really dig them. I mean, I think it's I don't even know what I would say influence wise there is, but there's just a lot of different feels to it. There's one that's almost like the song is really atmospheric, and it's kind of that muted trumpet sound where it sounds really distant, but it's got a really cool vibe to it. But I guess, you know, like the upbeat stuff, and being that it's mostly instrumental, I just get a real like 70s soul funk vibe from these guys. And I just, really good players. And like I said, being song based, I think you could just put it on and listen to it. It's not somebody jamming for 20 minutes. But there's just a lot of stuff going on within the song. So I think this one was released back in March. And like I said, if you want to check out, Pete did a really extensive review. And I also have a review on the website for the disc as well. So check them out.
Wow.
I never met anyone who did not like vocals. I find that fascinating. It feels like it gets in the way of the music.
You know, I think what it is for me, Jamie, is it's not so much that I don't like vocals, but there's a lot of bad singers out there to me. Like one of the bands we talked about, I think, on In the Prog Seat a lot, like Kansas. I think Steve Walsh is absolutely incredible. I love him. And I'll go off chorus. We were listening the other day. We were out just playing, nice day. We had like a yacht rock radio on or something, like a Linda Ronstadt. I could listen to her sing anything. Love her voice. I just hear a lot of singers that kind of throw me. I'm like, why is this guy your singer?
Yeah, I hear
He's
that
so
in
good.
modern prog sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the guy, huh?
It's
I,
it's a thing in metal too.
Is it?
Yeah, you're like, you got this guy, huh? All right, well, I guess he's the guy, but I'm not gonna
uh,
disparage friends or whatever, but you're like, all right, he's the guy.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you get a really good singer, I've got no problem with it. And again, there's probably people I like that somebody'd say, so you say you don't like vocalists, but you like this. There's certain things that just work for you and certain things that don't. But
What about Alice Cooper?
uh,
Can you not get into Alice Cooper because of the vocals or?
I'm not a big Alice Cooper fan. I mean,
Mhm.
I know the radio stuff. I don't think I own anything by Alice Cooper. So I guess
Yeah.
maybe you could, maybe so. But
But do you see what I'm saying is like sometimes you don't really need to have, I don't know. That's how I feel. I could get into this
Alice
conversation
has
all the time.
personality
right.
more than he's a great vocalist.
Right.
He's
I
a
mean,
vocal stylist. How's that?
Yeah.
okay, I could
Yeah.
deal with
No,
that.
I get it. And I get why people get into that stuff. I mean, I think a lot of the um which I didn't listen to a ton of, but like Alice in Chains, for some reason, I loved Lane Staley and Jerry Cantrell together. Their
Yeah.
voices were absolutely amazing.
Oh, sure.
But then I can't listen to, and they're different people, but like Eddie Vedder, Cobain, they didn't do anything for me. I had trouble with those guys, but I could listen
Right.
to Alice in Chains till I love those two.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that.
Yeah. All right, Ryan.
All right.
What extreme metal shit you got for us?
What do you want to review? You want to review some dog music? So the only thing I have two choices, and the only thing mine have in common is they're both West Coast. And they are not from the same country. So the first one's from Portland, Oregon, and it is not extreme metal. It is in fact
Well, when I said extreme metal shit, I didn't mean like it's shitty music.
Oh no, I know what you mean.
know.
But this first band is not even metal at all. And in fact, I was a little hesitant to include them because I got into them on their previous album, which was mostly, not entirely, but mostly honky tonk country. But
Mhm.
the new album is not. So this band, I just saw them recently, so I have multiple copies, is Jenny Don't and the Spurs.
Oh,
And
right.
this is a combination. There is still a lot of honky tonk, but there's a lot of garage rock. There's a lot of surf rock, a lot of Western rock, and a lot of like a lot of fuzz tone guitar. So it's a good mix. So
Sounds like
this is
what
their fourth
I would
album.
love it.
They're from Portland, Oregon. These guys have a background in punk rock, actually. So they kind of come from an eclectic background for a country band. You wouldn't expect like country from Portland, but that's the way the world is now. Like country bands from the South, black metal from Finland. It's not like everybody comes from everywhere. Kumbaya, let's make some s'mores and get along. So yeah, I heard these guys, I heard them totally randomly. I was going through Bandcamp, which I like to do about last year, just checking out random bands, and I heard their previous album and I loved it. So ergo, go fast forward to 2024. I see they're putting out a new album and they're touring. They actually played up in Albany last month, and me and Nick from Hudson Valley Squares went up there, and woo, we loved it. They played at this tiny little venue called the Fuse Box. It's like an old converted diner, great little place. And they ruled. They were so good. They were so charismatic. The main singer, Jenny Don't, namesake of the band, just great. And so this music, and I love I love this artwork too. I love this. I love everything about this LP. And because I'm a collector like that, I also have the CD version. Yeah, so like I said, this album, while it does still have a lot of the country roots, and you can obviously tell how the band is dressed, that they represent that. There's there's no punk rock, even though they come from that background, but there's a lot of garage rock. There's certainly a lot of like old school surf rock, more of like the Dick Dale, more in the guitar playing.
Mm.
There's definitely a lot of like that Western style rock, especially Morgan on the guitar playing. Her vocals definitely fall more on the country side of stuff, but the songs are they just put you in a good mood, which is why I like this kind of music too. The production is very warm, very organic, very clean. There's not a lot of repetition song to song. Like the fourth song, Sidewinder, is an instrumental, and it's just like, you could see tumbleweeds going across the road. It has that real Western feel. And some songs are much more ballady, and that's where the honky tonk side comes in, which I do love. I love that old school, very old, mid 20th century country sound.
Mm.
Yeah, the opening track, Flying High, really good. So their first drummer, actually, his name is Sam Henry, actually came from a punk rock background, a great Portland band called the Wipers, and another one of my favorite American punk bands, Poison Idea, also from Portland. So that was the kind of coming into this band to play this country music. He's no longer still in the band. Now they have a different ensemble. But yeah, they were up there with the the tassels and everything, just kicking ass. I loved it. Bought a shirt, got a beer coaster.
Did you get your album
It's
signed?
just what's up?
Did you get the album signed?
I did not. I'm not that guy. I don't know.
Okay.
Not that guy. I got a patch too. Look at that little guy. Yeah, I don't know. I've had a billion opportunities, but I never did. So at this point in my life, I'm like, well, I'm not going to start being the album sign kind of guy now, because then I'll be regretful that I didn't get 85 billion other albums signed. So I'll take a picture with somebody if they're like an opportunity. They're like, hey, can we get a picture? I'll do that. But yeah, I've never been an album sign kind of person. But yeah, if you like old school surf rock, if you like garage rock with like a fuzzy guitar tone, if you like that Western style, and if you like old school like honky tonk country, a little outlaw country, I highly recommend these guys because the songwriting is pristine. It's really good. The vocals are great. It's very catchy. A lot of personality. Just warm, good summer music. Which for weather like this is perfect. Yeah, this is like an ideal album to listen to in a nice hot summer day. Have a nice cold beer, nice glass of lemonade with ice. Perfect.
In a dive bar.
Yes, and it's and that's where we saw them was pretty much had the feeling of a dive bar, which was perfect. So yeah, I can't recommend this enough. It's not music if you watch the Hudson Valley Squares, this isn't stuff I usually talk about, but I like this stuff. I definitely like this kind of music. It's not really the subject matter for that show, so that's why I kind of leave it out. But yeah, this is
everything. We're open for everything here.
Exactly, this is a different show, so we're going to talk about it. So their previous albums are all good, but to me, this is the most diverse, eclectic, well-written, and I want to say heartfelt songs that they've done. So if you're new to this band, I know it's a new album, just came out like 2-3 weeks ago, but it's as good a spot to start as any. There's a lot of cool videos on YouTube, a lot of good live footage, if you want to check them out that way. I bought this off Bandcamp, so if you want to buy, a physical copy right from the band, that's a good way to do it. And it's probably, you could probably get it right from the record label too if you were so inclined. It's on Fluff and Gravy Records. Is where
That's a great title. That's a great.
I've never heard of it, but that's kind of cool.
I've never heard of it until there's the logo right there.
And there's the logo. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very on it.
Yeah, so like I said, if you are into like old garage rock, surf rock, Western rock, or just honky tonk, I cannot recommend this enough. I've been listening to it a lot. Me and Nick and some other friends that went, we still talk about the show. And Nick actually brought his daughter to that concert with us. We usually go see metal shows, obviously. He's not going to bring his daughter, but she's like, I'm going to bring her. And had a great time. Absolutely loved it. So
what was the crowd like? Was it country fans of that crowd?
It was overwhelmingly country fans, yeah. And I mean, Albany it's a college town, so you definitely had some college kids there because it was a weekend, which I would expect. But yeah, it was mostly country. Like a lot of people kind of dressed up in that fashion, and we're sitting there. I'm wearing like Motorhead shirts and whatever, but yeah, which is how it's gonna be. But I figure they come from like kind of that punk rock and roll background too, so
that's why
it's kind of like it takes all kinds. But
yeah.
Great album. If you like that stuff, I can't recommend it enough. All their other stuff's good too, but this new one is phenomenal. So
And
I like to rank it. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10.
Ryan, were there other bands on the bill or was it just them?
Yes, so it was 3 bands from Troy, New York. All the same style, actually more country. Like the one band was like kind of like a washboard, like real like down home old school country act. These guys were the closest to like more of a rock and roll sound.
Okay.
But I'll get the names because I had the flyer somewhere in here. Because you're up in that area, right? Like,
yeah, I'm a little, probably about 40 minutes above Albany. So
I can certainly get you. I think Troy is north of Albany, if I'm not mistaken.
yes.
Okay. So if you come back to me in a second, you keep going, and I'll get you the names of it. But they were all from Troy. They were all country, and they were all good too. That was the other thing. All the 3 opening acts were phenomenal. So it ended up just being a great show.
Good.
So I showed up there like I just want to see this one band, and hopefully the opening bands are good, and they were, which is always a nice surprise.
Yeah, I saw you were going to see them on YouTube. You posted. I'm like, I don't know these guys, so I started YouTubing them. First thing I thought was, oh, this would be fun live.
It was.
Mm.
Gotta find this.
I think that band can only be from the West Coast because garage punk and garage rock, surf, Dick Dale, all that stuff, and that old school country is very popular out there. Those kind of bands do very well. I'm thinking like off the top of my head, like the Super Suckers, like those. That's a big part of their culture, and there's a lot of honky tonks old that have turned into bars and stuff. So yeah, while it's an eclectic mix, it doesn't surprise me at all that they're from the West Coast, because like it's all that stuff is very well received out there.
And I mean, I've never been to Portland, Oregon, but I could tell you from my music collection, there's a lot of good music from Portland, from
Yeah.
all kinds of genres.
Mhm.
It's got that great punk rock background. There's a great metal scene there now.
Yeah.
Apparently bands like this, like obviously the guys from the Wipers and Poison Idea, like two legendary punk bands from
Legends.
Portland from the 80s. So
Mhm.
yeah, great. Just for music wise, every time I see a band from Portland, I'm like, I bet you they're pretty good, just because that city has such a like, it's like how New York used to be. New York City back in the day.
Yeah,
It's
I
great.
know.
Today it's like just a few bands here and there, but I think Portland seems like they're still kicking ass. So
Right.
All right.
well, I'm gonna find this. Oh, here we go. The bands were the AM. Well, this is Billy and the Great Western Postal Service, and the
You hear a name like that, you know what kind of music you're gonna.
oh yeah, there's a banjo and there's a mandolin in there, and I'm all about that. And the Brule County Bad Boys.
Okay.
Even the way they dress with that, the stars and the fringes and the tassels,
Oh, yeah.
like Ryan says, like that is so popular out west. I just like West Coast. It's
What is it?
something that they really
Cowpunk or something?
kind
Yeah, I
of
guess-
like I used to go to when I lived out there was a place called the Foothill, and that was an old honky tonk like turned into a bar, and Dick Dale used to play there, and then Wayne Kramer, and then there was punk and garage rock. I mean, and there was the same people at all of those shows. So
a lot of crossover between.
yeah,
those.
so I'm like I don't think the East Coast could produce a band like that. It's when you say the West Coast, it doesn't surprise me at all. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, because the East Coast bands that opened, they were great, but they were like just straight up like country acts.
Yeah,
Had
yeah,
that-
they're one or another.
it wasn't that Dick Dale, that that punk.
little bit of
No,
an
it wasn't
edge.
that mix, which I like. That just kind of
Yeah.
I like when bands kind of mix that stuff in together. But
Mhm.
I go to a show like that and my beer is constantly empty. It's like, shit, I drank that one already?
Yeah.
Shit, I drank that one? Where's this beer going?
That sounds great.
so I didn't drive to that show. Nick did, thank God. And I had that phenomenon happen to me. I'm like, man, the beer's only $4. Well, my beer's gone. Oh, I guess
Yeah,
the
it's
beer's gone.
constantly empty.
Yeah, what happened? Who keeps drinking my beer?
Yeah. Karen,
Yeah.
what's that one album you want to talk about?
What happened? Ufomammut.
Is that how you say it?
That's how I say it. Ufomammut. Yeah,
Better
Ufomammut.
than how I'd say it. So
Well,
Some
how would
people
you say it?
UFO.
I don't even, without the word in front of me, it's going to sound like I'm going over a speed
How
bump.
would you say it, Jamie?
Some people say Ufomammut, like UFO in the sky. I don't know.
No, these guys are Italian. You got to think like
Oh,
they
okay.
do.
That's a fair point.
Ufomammut.
Oof.
Ufomammut has a really good record out right now called Hidden. Here it is, the cover. And this really surprised me. It's not as dirty as the other ones. It's a little how can I put it?
Easier to
Well,
listen to?
Ufomammut definitely have that dirty, crunchy buzz. Sometimes this is going to be a weird comparison. Sometimes the vocals are like soaring over the music, and to me it reminds me a little bit of Yob, how Yob would do that. But then Yob has so many vocal styles, like how can you pin that down? But I really like it. It's clean singing, kind of, is not the best singer in the world, but it's in the
Eric,
background.
you'd hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're in the background. The vocals are very much in the background, and it kind of floats over the music, gives it like a kind of ethereal kind of feeling, which I really like. And it gets a little spacey, but not too much. Just when you think like, well, maybe this isn't a metal album, because there is it gets the lines get blurred with some stoner, and you're like, is this metal? Is it not? But then it kicks in with this incredibly dirty, heavy, fuzzy, crunchy riff, and you're like, yeah, this is metal. And I really like it a lot. So there's 2 of the songs that are like 10 minutes long. It's a little much for me, but if it's in the background, then that's cool. And then there's like 5-minute songs. It's really, really cool. Let me see. The one I really like is Mausoleum, and that's a 10-minute song. But Spied Her is pretty good. That's 4 minutes. Leeched is another great song. I'm a little unprepared here today, people. So I just really like the record. It's a little bit more shiny than the other previous records. Like I said, the vocals are soaring over that crunch tends to be in the background, which is fine with me. They're real musicians. There's a lot of guitar harmonies and stuff like that. So I just really like this record. Hidden from
In their
Ufomammut.
discography, where would you put it middle of the pack? Would you put it like top tier, lower tier?
I put it in the middle.
In the middle?
I have a penchant for the older stuff only because it's usually dirtier, hungrier. They're more creative, like that's how they came out, you know what I'm saying? And it's less produced, you know what I'm saying? They're just like, all right, I got this record in me and I want to get it out, and then it's there, you know what I mean? And to me, it's so, I know bands tend to improve and things like that, but I don't know, there's just something about a badly produced heavy metal album that I love. I just
feel
feel
that
like,
right here.
yeah, it's just, I
feel that.
just love that grimy, dirty sound. I do.
Yeah, the rawness can work.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with doom metal, because if you start spit shining it and making it clean and shiny, it loses its charm for me. I mean, it's heavy. This album, there are times where it's just like a weight on your chest. You know what I mean? It's like that riff is so heavy. And I appreciate that. So
Yeah, I should
Gold standard for shit production.
that's right. Shit production. It
I love
works.
this album so much, and it sounds like such a can of ass.
It does.
And I digress. I don't want to. I just had it right
No,
there. So
I
I'm like,
agree.
okay.
And I think Hellhammer is a good testament to that. And
Oh yeah, they sound like
Celtic
absolute-
Frost. I mean,
They
that's
sound like shit. Well, Celtic Frost is a little bit Celtic. So someone's got to comment. Is it Celtic or Celtic? Because no matter what I say, someone gets mad.
I go both ways.
I'm going to say both. So
when it
everybody's
comes to
happy.
Celtic Frost.
Everybody's
Aaron
happy.
goes both ways.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, like it's not bad production, but it isn't clean. You know what I mean? It's just that's what I like it. So yeah, I recommend Hidden from Ufomammut. I think, what is this? Their 4th album, Jamie? I'm not sure.
I thought they had more than that. If you say 4,
They could. I'm just
Let's see what Mr. Google says.
yeah, what
they
is
only
Mr.
have
Google?
2, but I thought they were around longer.
They've been around for a long time, but I have just discovered them like maybe in the last 2 years.
Okay.
My friend Tom went to a beer tour in Belgium and they were playing. So he was like, oh my God, look, this is a weird name for a band. And he came back and told me about it. And he was like, you would love this. And he was right. I absolutely did.
So Wikipedia says they have 8 albums.
Yeah.
But I'm actually counting the albums in the little discography section. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Wow.
11. It says it looks like Hidden's the 11th album, but it says 8,
Wow.
so I don't know. They got a lot of music.
Yeah, they got a lot of music, and
I'm embarrassed.
it takes a lot to absorb this music. So
Yeah,
you want to
And
dive
it's
into discography. Yeah, you're diving.
And then when new songs,
music.
like new albums of just keep coming out, there's been so much good music being released. these
Yeah,
past
there
years.
is, and that's why I haven't listened to this album in maybe 4.5 weeks. It
Only
just
so many hours
albums
in a
just
day.
get lost in the shuffle when
Right.
it starts
Totally
rolling in. That's why I
Exactly.
should have listened to it this morning to refresh me on it a little bit, so I remember liking it, but I can't remember details.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I like all kinds of music. I'm looking for new releases for psych, for doom, for all kinds of stuff, for just pop, for jazz. So metal just keeps so many good releases in metal this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just have a hard time keeping up with
Keeping
everything.
up.
There's
Yeah,
just so many
people say
hours
there's
in the
no
day.
new music
Yeah.
out there that's
Right.
good. Oh, we can't even keep up.
Plus, we all have our homework from other shows, right? So
Yeah,
Everybody's got to
yeah.
work a job, and got home life and all
That
that
too.
other stuff.
You got to rank movies on the Monsters Den. You got to
I
read
love Monsters
albums. You got to
Den.
spend time with the wife. You got to,
And eventually, you got to sleep. You got to sleep at some
yeah,
point.
you got to sleep. I got to drink on the weekends, and I'm hungover on Sunday and don't feel like doing anything.
Got to mow the
Right,
lawn.
right.
It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing.
Thank you
All
for
right.
understanding.
So I got an album I want to talk about that just came out not too long ago. This is a band called Alcest. Alcest. They
Look
are
at you.
formed 2000 from France. What do they play? Black gaze or post black metal. You might be asking, what the fuck is that? Well,
I know what that is.
we'll get into it. The album is, let me say this right, La Chante de la Or. Don't know what it means. It was released June 21st, 2024. And there's the two guys. They used to have 4 guys in the band. They're down to 2. And you got Neige. And this guy calls himself Winterhalter. One word, Winterhalter. So they are a bit pretentious. Because if you name yourself after something that sounds like a village in Game of Thrones, you're a little pretentious. You're either really cool or you're a dick. I don't know the guy, so we can't make
I
that
think they're really
decision.
cool. I like them.
Yeah, they are cool. But, well, let's get into it. And all the lyrics are in French. All the album titles are in French. I said the name of the album. That's all the French you're going to get out of me. I'm not going to try to butcher these song titles. So I'm just going to put them on the screen. And then you get to see my notes too and all my typos. So the first song, it's 6 minutes and 39 seconds. Anyone who wants to jump in and pronounce these? Ryan, you're a traveler.
I have their first
my
4
baby.
albums here, and I'm reading them, and I'm not even gonna try.
So track 1, you notice right away the production's on point. They're sweeping beautiful melodies, and the drumming is outstanding. So Winterhalter can play him some drums. The drums really propel the sweet melodies and give them a certain edge. This is barely like, this album here is barely metal. I wouldn't even call it metal. So this is songs, part of these songs like your grandmother or mom would like. The track 2, 8 minutes roughly. As beautiful as track 1, continues with the same haunting vocals. The vocals are a bit one note like though when he sings, but they're effective. This one also has nice layers of acoustic guitar blended in. It does end with blackened vocals. So the guy, Neige, he goes from this one note kind of soothing vocal style to this black. What's the difference between blackened vocals and death metal growls? Death metal growls is like a bear roaring to me, and blackened vocals is kind of like a snake hissing. That's the best way I can. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not.
Now,
Close enough for
Jamie, you said there's only 2 guys. Are there other guys playing on the record? But they're the
No,
2
they play everything.
They do everything.
They're all playing like several instruments each. This one also has acoustic. It does end with blackened vocals, so you are reminded when you hear that. Oh yes, this band is a little metallic metal-like, aren't they? Because you forget. Track 3. I don't know. You start putting things over letters, and I'm out. Starts, unless you're Motley Crue, Motorhead, or Blue Oyster Cult, starts with many overlapping instruments that create a big wall of sound. And once the vocals come in, I'm thinking, as nice and lush as this is, I feel like this is part 2 of the previous song. So far, there's not much separating these songs when it comes to their diversity. And I would say that about the whole discography of this band. You hear one song, you kind of hear them all. They're all nicely done. They're all sweet. The melodies are nice, but it's hard to separate one from another. If you play one song and you say, what album is that off of? I don't know. But it's still very nicely done. The blackened vocals are more extreme, at least here, and that starts to give this song its own personality. But like I said, the melodies are similar to the 2 previous tracks. Track 4 has great little guitar lick, but again, how close is this melody to the previous tracks? It's hard to tell without playing them all at the same time. And if you did play them all at the same time, it might sound like one song. But it does sound nice. I keep saying that, don't I? It has a big sweeping finale at the end, which is really cool. Track 5 comes around, and it's very short interlude. And it's vocal passages, not even words, just oh. over an acoustic sounding piano. And that is so, after all that lushness that came before, just hearing an acoustic piano by itself is very welcomed and needed right at this spot. So yeah, the more simple approach, oh, word didn't like that, underline, say simple, you approach is welcomed and refreshing. Then you go into track 6. This is your hardest rocking song. It's still lush, but moves at a quicker pace. This quicker pace separates it from the pack just a bit. It's close to being metal, but without the big metal sounding guitars, which is what this band's all about. They're kind of metal, but they don't have those big metal guitars. Yeah, it's a trick they've done throughout their whole career, pretty much.
Yeah.
Their first EP, I've never heard it, but I hear it's very black metal like. And then, oh, this song even has little squiggly lines at the end of the title. And track 7. Now, this is where we go from the most metallic sounding song to the softest song. And this is where the album starts to feel longer than 44 minutes. It starts to feel like 54 minutes or 64 minutes. And it's kind of a fade out song for almost 5 minutes. You know, the ending credits song, I call it, when these appear on the end of an album, the fade out song. So we just had an interlude 2 tracks before this. Why do we need this 5-minute outro 2 songs later? I say keep the interlude and get rid of the outro song, or keep the outro and get rid of the interlude. But if you keep the latter, the interlude, move the interlude up to track 4. They should have had me produce this fucking album. So, that's what I would say about all that. So if we go to the report card was very difficult on this one. I had to think, and I was changing my grades. And when I see it again, I might want to even change it again. It's very difficult. The production is A. The production on this album is beautiful. The songwriting, if I heard one song by these guys and someone said, "What do you think of that song?" and rated songwriting wise, I would say, oh, that's B+, A-. But because of all the songs kind of sound similar, I feel like they're a little bit of a one-trick pony. So I got to give them a C. Musicianship, man, those drums kick ass. B. They know how to layer these sounds so well. They're playing well, but it's really piecing it all together to make it sound lush is what they do great. Solid B. Vocals, B-. I like his blackened vocals better than his soft vocals, believe it or not, because he's a little bit one-notey. But it's okay. It works. Kind of like, who's the guy from Alan Parsons? Eric Wolfenson? Is it Wolfenson?
I'll go with Wolfson. How's that?
Wolfson.
Okay.
I'm sure
Yeah,
I know.
he's kind of got that one-notey, but it's
Yeah.
nice and soothing. That's kind of
Nice voice,
It's
but
a good note. One good note.
exactly.
So yeah, B-. So if you're into these guys, look, I got into them in 2019 when I got Spiritual Instinct, this one, and I thought, oh, that's nice, that's cool. And then I bought the new one. This is all, just buy 2 albums. That's all you need, because they all going to start sounding similar, a little too similar.
See, I have the first. They only have 6. I have the first 4. First one
together. We can go.
My favorite are the second one. I loved it. I pulled these out because I love the artwork. This is the second one, whose name I'm not going to try to say.
Yeah.
And this is from 2010. And this is the third one from 2012. And everything you said about those is true of these.
Right.
Yeah. And they're very good albums. This one,
But they're good. They're just
good.
zany.
So what is it, like shoegaze with black
Yeah.
metal?
Yeah.
Yes, that's.
And I find that's amazing. The way shoegaze is becoming popular in a sense where it's seeping into other genres. And I love shoegaze. I think it's great. And I just love how black metal gets mixed up into other metal genres too. It's amazing.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
kind of
think it's so
invented the whole
cool.
black.
I've heard it done poorly. I'll just say
Yeah,
that.
but I mean, look
Yeah.
at Temple of the Fuzz Witch. They're like a combo of doom and black metal.
Black
and I
metal,
love
yeah.
it.
Black
Yeah.
and Doom.
So I
Yeah,
can say
yeah,
I've heard a
Black
couple
Doom.
bands do this style, and I don't really like it, except for this band. This is like one of the few exceptions where I think they hit that sweet spot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do.
I opened
And
it.
the
This is the first
melodies,
one I
how
heard.
are
and
they?
I like this album a lot. There's just something about it. It's like almost, I don't know. It's very relaxing, which is
Yeah,
not something I
it's
usually
very
do with
relaxing.
metal, but
Well, that's why I've been listening to a lot of shoegaze and I'm having a hard time keeping
Like
up
if
with.
if you had a 2-hour, you just got out of a metal show, you're 2 hours away from home, you got that long drive ahead of you, put these guys in,
Yeah.
drive home to that, and by the time you get
oh
home,
yeah,
you're out.
If I leave a metal show, I do not listen to metal on the way home.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
It's
Anything else. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Eric, what do you got?
Okay, so I don't have a physical copy of this. This is actually, I thought it'd be nice for the show, Jamie. It's a SOT exclusive. Pete got this from the record company, I think earlier this week. It's called Perpetual Mutations.
Okay.
And it is, it's actually their second collaboration. Gavin Harrison, drummer for Porcupine Tree, plays with the Pineapple Thief, and he's also played with King Crimson. And the bass player is Antoine Fafard. He's got quite a resume as well. He's played with Simon Phillips, Jerry Goodman, Gary Husband. So, and as you would expect, it's a bass player and a drummer. It's very rhythmically oriented. I really like, so kind of the concept for this record, what they did was they wanted to do something and bring in different instrumentation. So it wasn't just guitars, bass, drums. They wanted to, so you have everything on this from oboe, cello, violin. There's a lot of piano. The bass player, Antoine Fafard, also plays classical guitar. So there's some classical guitar. So I think what they were just trying to do was, and again, like I said, you're thinking bass player and a drummer. It almost sounds at times like, okay, so these guys were in a room jamming, put together these songs, and now they're bringing these other and I'm sure that's not how it was done, but you really get that when you listen to it. There's also a lot of like vibes and marimba, and I don't know if anyone's Zappa fan, but having listened to Frank Zappa for years, I absolutely love the vibes. So when I heard this on here, that always checks a box for me. I think they just sound fantastic, and they add like a texture to the music, even though they're musical. You just get that kind of extra percussive feel from those. But it's really interesting that it's not, you might hear the instruments and think that, oh, it's kind of a mellow, more like atmospheric kind of thing. I mean, Fafard and Harrison are just, if you've heard his work with King Crimson or Porcupine Tree, Gavin Harrison is an amazing drummer. And these are really like very solid, heavy kind of background. And then, like I said, those different instruments, I think there's trombones and sax on one song, oboes, but there's a presence to it. It's not just kind of background atmospheric stuff. It can get heavy at times and Fafard's a great bass player. So those two playing together, some intricate stuff going on with the rhythm section. This is one I tried to put it on, we were talking about before we went on camera about how some of us can listen to music at work and some of us can't. Fortunately, I can, but a lot of times what happens is if you're working kind of focused on work, that becomes background. Well, this was one of those things where you kind of had to listen to it. Like I almost had to turn it off because I'm like, it's kind of interrupting what I'm trying to do at work. So it's one of those. It's, even though it's instrumental, and even though there's some instruments you might think, it's kind of classical, it's more laid back, it's really not. I mean, there's that driving rhythm section is pretty much, I think it's 9 tracks. There's really nothing that's too laid back. A few of the tracks do get mellow at times, but I think if you're looking for something different, not just guitar, bass, drums, and keyboard, there's a lot here. There's just so many different things. They use sounds and textures. And again, all instrumental, but these guys have a great resume, and obviously being that it's their second release, I'm assuming they really enjoy working together, and hopefully we'll get more. But I think from what I remember from the press kit, this is coming out at the end of July, like July 26th. So, check it out. I didn't see anything out there yet in terms of, I think they did release a YouTube video. So there's one thing out there right now. So, and a lot of times now, if you use Spotify or Apple Music or one of those, they usually have 1 or 2 songs that they'll pre-release before the album comes out. So if that sounds interesting to you, check it out, because I think you're going to find at least 1 or 2 of the tracks out there already. So,
all right. Question for you.
Yeah.
Frank Zappa's vocals doesn't bother you?
Oh, well, you're going to laugh. Yes, they do. But what's funny with Zappa is I'm not big on the goofy stuff. That gets tiring. Okay, might have been funny the first time or 2 you heard it, and then I don't want to hear it anymore. When he has some of his other vocalists, like there's a Napoleon Brock Murphy, who's absolutely fantastic. And I saw him with Dweezil in the early stages. I think when he first went out and did the Zappa Zappa plays Zappa tours, he had a lot of the old Zappa guys playing with him, and he's fantastic. And what a great, I mean, you'd probably think of Frank as the guy you're focusing on, but he was amazing on stage. Absolutely great to watch as a front man. And I don't think he plays with him anymore, but I do think he's out there with some type of, I guess there's so many tribute bands now, right? But I do think there's a Zappa tribute where he's still out doing stuff with them. So, yeah, the Zappa stuff, because I like I like his more fusiony period. So I like a lot more of his instrumental stuff. And I know Captain Beefheart sings on some things, and that's not really my thing. But depending on the vocalists he's had some pretty cool guys singing. So I can take some of it.
Ryan.
All right, so now I'm going to talk about some metal. I don't want to leave you hanging. We're going to go north from Portland, Oregon. We're going to go up the Pacific West Coast, take the highway, cross the border to the lovely city of Vancouver, Canada. This is a Goldilocks album for me, and I'll explain what I mean. So this is of everything I've heard so far this year, and I've heard quite a few metal albums. This is my favorite metal album I've heard in 2024. Might be one or two that beat it further down the line, but we'll get to that in maybe a future episode. But right now, this is my favorite album. This is the debut album. Just came out last month on Invictus Productions from Dublin, Ireland. I want to mention him because the owner is a good friend of mine, so I want to do a little shout out there. The album is Wildly Possessed by Reversed. I love this art.
Yeah, that's cool art.
Yeah. Here's a picture of the band, and there's a lot of, so you already know what we're getting into here. There's a lot of chains, a lot of spikes, there's some blood, it's all out of focus. There's a lot of this hand going on.
I'll be
a lot of
YouTubing
bullets
this in 30 minutes.
Yeah, what's up?
I'll be YouTubing this in 30 minutes, probably.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So, and the layout, my another good friend of mine, Anik Giro, did the layout, and I just love how. So here's the insert, which I wanted to pull out, and it says, "For those about to rot, prepare for final death metal." And in real life, on their birth certificates, these guys have names like Sean and Rob, but this is death metal. This is not
death metal. Yeah,
we're not going to the grocery store here. So in the band, their names are Wretched and Tracer, MS Negredo, Rusted Blade, and Restless Grave. Now, why I said this is a Goldilocks sound, because I do listen to a lot of metal, and I'm pretty easygoing with a lot of it. But it's very tough to get albums that like walk that fine line where they check every little box and do everything just right. Because I like old style metal, but I don't want bands that just like we sound exactly like Celtic Frost 1985. I don't get a lot of mileage out of it. It's cool for a minute, but I'm like, why don't I just listen to Celtic Frost or Slayer?
I'll just put on
Yeah, I mean, maybe you do a nice homage, but ultimately I'm just going to go back and listen to Slayer or Metallica or whatever, you know. And then I'm not super into like bands that sound like very, very modern, because it's, again, nothing wrong with it. If that's your taste, that's your taste. But I like stuff that's like kind of keeps it, you know, metal-wise, that keeps itself to like the roots of the genre. That's just what I like. So it's something, if I hear it and it has nothing mentally with me to do with like 80s metal or 70s metal, I don't know. It's tougher for me to form that connection with it. So the rare band, the Goldilocks zone, is where you get a band that sounds like this could have been released back in the day, but it sounds nothing like any other band. It just has that spirit and that feel to it. That to me, that's fucking rare. Not a lot of bands can like walk that tightrope act, and these guys do. So this is a mix. It's death metal. There's a lot of thrash and a lot of black metal in there. I want to talk about the production on this album, because the production is, for this kind of metal, is perfect. It sounds very warm and organic. The bass is loud and rumbling. It cuts through. There's no compression, so nothing's all smashed together.
Nice.
So it's not perfectly bad. It's just
it's perfect.
That's what I need. That's what I need.
So one thing that ruins me with a lot of big modern releases is that, you know, band goes in to record it, and then the studio guys, whoever, and they make everything sound like robots are playing it. Like they everything's quantized, everything's lined up perfectly, all the drums are like, you know, robotic perfection. I don't like that. Metal bands, to me, there should be dirt under their fingernails. It should sound like a band playing music in front of you. You know, maybe not the best PA, maybe not the best setup, maybe the guitar pedal's a little, you know. I'm like, not saying I don't want necessarily filthy, but I want it to sound like a band, like musicians playing in front of me with like a little blood, sweat, and tears.
Right.
And I don't want to go on a little side quest here, but to me, that's the difference between like the newest Priest albums, which
I was just going to say that.
And those albums, to me, like that don't sound like a 50-year-old band. The new Priest albums sound like a bunch of fucking robots. The music is good, don't get me wrong, but the production, it's too
Yes.
Killed
Way
it for
too
me.
clean.
Yeah,
I haven't
And then-
listened to that new album in 2
It's
months.
exactly.
Andy Sneap, man. Andy Sneap. I can't do it.
Can't either.
And then on a conversely, I take like the newest Maiden albums, which a lot of people bitch about, Kevin Shirley, and they're like, oh, why don't they record like Andy Sneap? That sounds like Iron Maiden playing in front of me. And those are old dudes. These are all old dudes. So it sounds like a bunch of old dudes playing old heavy metal. I like that. I like how those new Maiden albums sound. Yes, they did sound better with Martin Birch, but everything sounds better with Martin Birch. So that's neither here nor there. So this album, to me, it's got this perfect sound. And within the within metal, I know a big thing within a lot of metal is a lot of bands now, especially within black and death metal, they use heavy reverb, which generally I like. But these guys really don't use a shit ton of reverb. And the best comparison I can think of is Slayer, because early on, Slayer, before Rick Rubin, Brian Slagel, Metal Blade, Show No Mercy, Hell Awaits, tons of reverb. Rick Rubin gets them, signs them to Deaf American, put out Rain in Blood, 1986, strips all the reverb out.
Yeah.
Still sounds amazing. Very good, clean sounding album, but it's powerful and dirty. And that's kind of a good analogy for this. It's got that powerful sound, but you can hear the bass, you can hear the drums. The drums sound great. I'll even say the vocals here, you can understand everything the guy's saying, but he's got that deep, like sickly growl. And that's Goldilocks. Because I'll see a lot of death metal bands where I admit I can't understand a fucking thing the guy's saying, but I like it. It's fine. But when you get a guy like this who you can understand everything he's saying, you can pick out the vocals, you can sing along, but it's not clean singing. It's still like, nasty. That's not easy to do. And he makes it sound like he's fucking possessed, which again, not easy to do. So I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10. The rhythm section definitely reminds me of old Slayer in a way.
Nice.
But I can't compare it really to any other band. I can't be like, if you like Morbid Angel or you like blah, blah, blah. It sounds like reversed, because it really doesn't. These guys have their own thing going on. They had an EP out a couple of years ago. They've been kind of laying low since then. And these guys all have a bunch of other bands too. So I don't know if this is like a side project for them. Some of them are in a band called Spell, which is more like an Iron Maiden kind of band, like classic metal.
Right.
And some of them are in a band called Mitochondrion, which is just like just insane death metal. So this is like, if not a side project, then like just another thing they're doing. But this is my favorite of all their bands. Definitely my favorite death metal album this year, my favorite metal album this year. That's like I said, it just checks every box. The production's perfect, but not dirty, but not, not overly clean. Nothing's all quantized, nothing's lined up. There's no Andy Sneap in the studio fucking everything up. It was produced at Fiasco Bros Studios in Vancouver. Feel like I should mention that. And then mixed and mastered at the Forge in studios in Stockholm, Sweden, I believe. So those guys did a fantastic job mixing and mastering this album. Yeah, this is something where it's not like crazy death metal where it's like, you have to be already super into the genre to get into it. I could recommend this to much more casual listeners, but
What about me? You think I would like it?
give it a shot. Give it a shot.
What's the name of it? A lot of people are listening, not watching.
So the band is Reversed.
Okay.
There we go. And the album's called Wildly Possessed. I just love the layout on this. I think it was really nice. I love the art.
Yeah.
Hope they make a t-shirt of this. Yeah, like here's the thing. So it's unapologetically death metal. It's not like, it's kind of, there's no like overtures to like, I guess like listeners who are more casual, but it's just done so well. And the songwriting is so good. Every song sticks in your head. Every song is different, which again, that's good. And it's kind of, I'm going to say kind of rare for this music, but when it happens, it's appreciated. I'll say that it's really appreciated. So yeah, I would recommend this heartily. So I think we'll put the albums in the comments too. So, everybody can see what we're talking about.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
It's definitely final death metal. And I love these
You kind of sold me on it, and I didn't
Yeah.
even
These
hear it.
band
I don't
photos
like
are
death
great.
metal.
I love these band photos. I love how they're kind of like out of focus. Man, I can't. Everything's upside down here. Yeah, a lot of
artwork sold me.
yeah.
I'm like,
No one's
need
wearing a
some
shirt.
of
There's a lot of blood. There's a lot of like some pentagrams. This guy's upside down.
this.
Even if I hate the band, I might buy a shirt with the album cover.
The cover is fucking great. I like this. I do hope they make shirts with this. But yeah, and there's only 7 songs, which again, it's not too long. It's 33 minutes. So you're just a notch over like Rain in Blood by Slayer. Right? So nice and compact. There's an intro for about 2 minutes, and then just 6 songs of just quality. So it's lean. They if there was any fluff, they cut it out.
Nice.
Great album. Really like it. Like I said, for 2024 so far, this is my favorite album. We'll see how the rest of the year takes us. And it is on Invictus from sunny Dublin, Ireland. And there you go.
Tropical Dublin.
Tropical Dublin in the Emerald Isle.
All right. Well, I was thinking, what am I going to review as my second album? And I thought it is July. We're midway through the year. And I've listened to a bunch of albums, and I can only do 2 a show. So a lot of albums have fallen through the cracks. So I thought, what if I just do a lightning round of catch up, playing a little catch up, and talk about some real fast that I've bought or heard. So the first one is this cool band, Baard Vader, Bard Vader, I guess. Whatever happened to just Whitesnake? When the Stars Arrive, released May 16th. If you like Alice in Chains, you might like these guys. They got the sound, they got the guitar tone. Do they have the songs Alice in Chains had? Alice in Chains were special. I mean, you know, they're a one-of-a-kind band. Of course, they don't have the same songs like Man in the Box and Rooster. Those are special songs. But if you like Alice in Chains, give these guys a try. The songs are a little longer than Alice in Chains, too. Bokassa. Not Bukowski. Bokassa. Released February 16th. All Out of Dreams. This is an interesting album. I've never heard anything like it. This is a stoner rock band, but imagine if a stoner rock band did songs written by The Offspring or Green Day. That's what you get here. You get pop punk played by a stoner rock band. You're tired of it by the end of the album, but there's a funness to it. Yellow Saturnians, released June 12th. This is space rock. Really cool. I believe it's their first album, but the price is right. There's no physical copy that you can buy of this. But if you go on their Bandcamp, it's free.
Oh, wow.
Download it for free. Name your own price.
Nice.
$3 to $5 though, if you do it.
Right
You can
I like
listen
that
to it, see what you think. And what I did is I downloaded it and then I made my own CD copy.
Look at you.
And then
That's
if you open
industrious.
it up, you got the song titles and the CD and like the inner thing there. So you could just make your own copy.
You're so good, Jamie.
And the last song on this, To the Sun, 9 minutes, pretty epic. These guys are good. So go on there and throw them $4 or $5.
Jamie, when you say space, is it all keyboards or is there guitar?
No, it's like stoner rock meets space rock.
Okay.
It's like hard rock, I guess you would say.
Like a Hawkwind
Less-
kind of thing?
Not as heavy. You're not going to get big. It's more spacey.
Okay.
What do we got next? Rotting Christ. Pro Cristo. Which
Wow.
means Before Christ, I believe. Released May 23rd. It's a fun album. It's a shorter album. But like with Alcest, it gets a bit samey. You're rocking out, and then about 15 minutes into the album, you're like, I feel like I'm listening to the same song.
Yeah.
But it's all kind of cool and fun. Thank God it's a short album. But they're supposed to be a black metal band. The singing on this is just talking. It's just pretty much spoken word almost. You get singing from like the background evil monks doing their that's
They kind of went that direction the last couple of years.
If you like Rotting Christ, you know what you're getting. It's like extreme metal you can dance to. I've been calling them that for years. You could dance to Rotting Christ.
I was surprised
And the
about that
only
one.
place on the internet where you can go from Rotting Christ to Taylor Swift. No, I was curious about this broad. And she released a new album. Oh, what did I do with the date? Son of a bitch. I didn't put the date up there. It came out like 3 months ago. And I said, you know what? I'm going to listen to Taylor Swift for the first time in my life. I'm going to listen to this fucking album. And it's a long one. And it's not terrible. I mean, I wasn't annoyed by it. It's like that modern sad girl pop that's out there, like Billie Eilish and Lana, what's her, Del Rey or whatever.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. And it's a little bit more upbeat than those two girls. Because I'm really getting tired of the sad girl music, like Billie Eilish.
I can't stand those
You just want
vocals
to go cheer up, you're a millionaire.
Yeah, you're
Cheer
fucking
up.
19
Where
and a
is the
millionaire.
fun? Can we have some pop music I can shake my ass to, please? So I listened to it, and this is the thing. If you're pissed off that Taylor Swift is the biggest music star in the world, don't wish for anyone else. Be happy this is what we got as the biggest, because you could do so much worse. So much worse. If you trade this in, you know, you might, it's like, let's make a deal or whatever the hell those things are.
No deal, Howie.
What's
No deal.
behind curtain number 3? Let's just stick with the Dinette set. Yeah, there might be a car behind the next curtain, but let's just stick with what we got. There might be like a goat in a cage,
A bee's nest.
they used to have on that show or something. So
Jamie, you said it's a
not
long
that bad.
album.
What's that?
You said it's a long album.
Yeah, it's a long album. The Tortured Poets Department. See, the Tortured Poet. Woe is me.
I got a
Well,
broken heart.
Oh my God.
It's something we've talked about on other shows. Do you guys have a sweet spot? Like Ryan had mentioned that the one album he was talking about was 33 minutes, which may be a little longer than an EP, right? But
43 minutes. That's
and
what
you hate to complain about when your favorite bands give you a lot of music, but I'll tell you, you get into an album that's 50, 60 minutes and you kind of,
I check
I mean,
it
I
out.
still like that
It's
40.
tough.
Yeah, I
43
like
minutes,
that 40
man.
minutes, 45
Well, those
minutes.
10-minute songs on that Ufomammut, they just, after a while, they just become background, and I don't really see why it's so necessary. But that's part of the genre too.
It
It's
is,
not my
yeah.
favorite thing.
You know what? Since I mentioned them, both Maiden and Priest, their new albums are just, no one's telling those guys how to edit anymore, because they're like, we have 25 songs and they're all forever. And here's
Mhm.
albums like an hour and a half. And all those new albums, it's like, and I like the new Maiden way more than the new Priest, but it's fucking, they're so long.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's hard to complain about that, right? But at the same time, there is a flow
Yeah.
to a record, and you're like,
Yes.
You don't want
start
to
getting-
go to the theater and sit in the theater for 3 hours either.
No, not unless it's
I
it's
have.
rare.
I mean, sometimes you do, but you know what?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like
everyone's
I never
done it.
made it through that whole new Priest album in one sitting, and the new Maiden album, which I like a lot. I like every song. I never listened to it in one sitting because it doesn't have a flow to it, because it's like 3 days long. So you're absolutely
on.
right.
The good thing is a lot of these underground stoner rock bands and stuff, or on Bandcamp, they're pushing their vinyl. And
Yeah.
they don't want to have a double vinyl album. Costs a lot more to make.
Print it, yeah.
It costs a lot
that's
more
right.
for you to buy it. You're not going to buy it if it's more money. So they keep their
not.
albums around 40 minutes. So it's all working out.
Mhm.
But like I said, not that bad. I was at Vegas a few months ago, and I was at the pool, and I heard a song that was so terrible, 100% bullshit, like a 12-year-old playing with an app in their bedroom trying to make music is what it sounded like for the first time that I Shazammed it, and it was fucking Drake. Worst piece of shit I've ever heard. So
Ugh.
trade in this for the biggest star, you might get fucking Drake. So let's be happy we got
Nobody
this.
wants that. Nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that.
I have to say, in Taylor Swift's defense, she plays her own music. She plays guitar, so she's a musician. She could sing, and she
No
writes her own
auto-tunes.
songs.
No auto tuning. She's writing
Yeah.
songs. She's
Yep,
playing.
right songs.
You know what though?
The bar
I'll
is
add
low.
one little. I don't want to be the devil's advocate here, but
But
every shitty concert I've ever seen, like every like terrible opening band I've ever seen in my life, like please go away. They all play their own instruments too.
Yes,
They were
yeah,
up
I
there.
know, but
like
like
I'm
for
saying, the
pop
bar is
music-
low.
That's true.
We're
Bar's
setting
low.
the bar low, but that's where we are in 2020.
But I appreciate.
That's
I know.
true.
I know what you're saying though, and
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
checked. So this is 10 songs and 36 minutes. So
That's the punk
right in the
them.
pocket.
Boom.
Right in the
That's
pocket.
the
yeah.
punk
there
in
you
the
go.
surf.
On to
right
the next
there.
album. Yay!
Yeah. No time to waste.
Case of the singles, Armored Saint. They did a cover of an old soul song, One Chain, Don't Make No Prison. It's fun. Lazy Sod, Deep Purple. I think it might be their third release. It's
That's
good. All these
that's a
Deep
terrific
Purple songs
song.
kind of sound.
It's
they have
good.
the same
Yeah,
It's good.
feel
Really
to
good.
them.
a
But
lot
it's
of
good,
keyboard
yeah.
and the
Nice
guitar in that.
keyboard and guitar. Yeah.
Yeah, terrific.
Striper, End of Days. I gave it a listen. If you like Striper, you're probably going to like this. It was heavier than I was expecting. I'll give him that. But Michael Sweet, I wasn't a fan of him in the 80s. I'm not a fan of his voice in 2024.
Right on, Jamie.
Thanks.
You're a
And the
good
lyrics
fan.
are the lyrics are something about the scriptures and
You know what you got to get with those guys at this
I
point.
already went to Catholic school. I don't need to listen to
You
it.
know what you're going to get.
Anyone here watch The Bear? I think season 3 just dropped. I've heard good things. I never watched it, but Eddie Vedder did a song. The English Beat did a song, Save It for Later, in the 80s, and he covered it for season 3 of The Bear. If you like Pearl Jam, like nobody here likes Pearl Jam, but I do. It's a sweet little song. So there you go. Case of the Singles for this episode. And what do I got next on the next? Oh, let's get physical. I got a Facebook page.
Oh, Jamie, too. Speaking of Deep Purple, they're touring this summer.
Yes, I know.
With Yes.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And I'm actually
They're
going to
doing
see
bigger
them
places.
with Pete. I think Bethel Woods, but it looks like they're out. So they got a full tour going. So, and the 2 cuts I've
Never
heard from
seen
that record are great.
I love Bethel Woods. That's a
It's a
great
cool
spot.
place.
I would like to
Cool
go there.
place.
But real quick, let's get physical. It's my Facebook page where we talk about everything physical media, from DVDs to what we got here, 8 tracks and comic books and CDs and vinyl and books and whatnot, even like posters or t-shirts if you want to show that off. So come on over to Let's Get Physical and request to join, and I will accept you because I accept everybody. And I haven't thrown anyone out. Everyone's
No
really cool
standards.
over there. No one's a dick. So yeah, come on over there. Anyone else got anything they want to push or anything?
I got one album. I didn't want to review it because I don't know if it merits a review, but I want to mention it because it's really freaking good. So cool 80s band I like a lot called Sepultura. A lot of hubbub over the
I
years.
know where you're
yeah.
going.
The 2 main brothers, Igor and Max Cavalera, recently recorded their second full-length album, Schizophrenia, which was 1987, and it is redid it as their own band, Cavalera Conspiracy.
Yeah.
I tell you, there's been a lot of metal bands that have re-recorded stuff over the years. 199 billion times out of a zillion, it doesn't work. I don't know if that number really calculates.
Like, what's the point?
Yeah, and usually it's like, what's the point? Or it's even bands I love. Like, it's just like Voivod did it recently, and it's cool, but it's like, okay, this is like a novelty thing. It's for collectors. This is really good. I don't know how they did it, but it's just awesome. It just sounds really good. I don't know how else to describe it. It's almost, the words almost elude me because I'm listening to it. I'm like, well, I could listen to the original, which I love. Great thrash album from '87. The album that kind of like started to take them from this really raw, dirty underground band in Brazil to like
Great record.
yeah, like actually a professional sounding band. They still had very little budget from where they were from at the time. 1987 Brazil, but it's a very professional, good album, all things considered. Then they moved to Roadrunner Records, and they blew up. But this re-recording, I don't know, it's just really good.
There's a lot of buzz around that album.
There is.
I would have not gone out and bought and sought out a re-recording because I almost never do, or I'll YouTube it and be like, okay, it's cool, whatever. And a lot of other bands have done it, like a lot of other metal bands, a lot of classic rock bands have done it. It's almost never interesting to me, but this is the one time in my life I heard it. Is it better than the original? No. Is it really worth listening to? Yeah. And the most amazing thing is the last song on it, Nightmares of Delirium, I didn't recognize. Turns out they wrote a brand new song in like 2024, 2023 that sounds like 1987, and you cannot tell the difference. And I read an interview with Max where he's like, he listened to this album for a week. He just got himself in, because he was like 15 when he wrote this. Like, they were really young, like really young when they wrote these albums. And now he's,
the mindset.
Yeah, and he's in his 50s, and he, now he lives in America. It's like it's a different lifetime, it's a different universe. And he was able to write one song that, I don't know, it fits in nicely with the album, and it's not jarring. Like, whoa, what the hell is this? This is kind of out of place. So I didn't really want to give it a full review, but yeah, I felt like I should mention it because it's really, really good. I like the redone art too. It's really kind of
it stays true to the original, but gives it a 2024 up facelift.
They're better musicians,
So the drummer Igor, he was, I forget how young he was when he recorded the original, but he was well, I don't think he was 18 yet. Now he's been playing drums for decades. He has that sound, like the original has this amazingly ridiculous rototom sound, which I love. But he still has that. They kept the rototom sound on this version, but like now he's a very professional, competent drummer. And you can tell the difference. So I think it's cool. I think it's worth checking out. And I usually don't go for stuff like this, but
all right.
Yeah.
That makes up for Karen's lack of a second review.
There you go.
I know, guys. I'm so sorry.
Still got in our quota.
There we go. We got in the.
So sorry, dude.
That's fine. I'm glad you're here. You contributed on all kinds of other shit.
It's a conversation.
I always like being on the show.
No one even noticed that you only did one album. But if
Now
we
they
wouldn't
know.
have
Yeah,
mentioned it,
I know. I leave such an impact that no one even knows.
I had
that
to
I
mention
did
it, or the
that.
comments would be, Jamie skipped Karen. Why?
No.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because we don't
Mm-mm.
like her. All right. All right, guys. So visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together. All the damn time. Click on the subscribe button if you haven't already and ring that bell so you get notified of the content as it drops. And hit the like button. Easy to forget to do that. We also have a Ko-Fi link below. And we got the merch page. Get yourself a hat for the rest of the summer. And we have a Cameo page. You know the Cameo page. You Pete some money, you can go over his house and use his meat smoker. You guys can smoke some meat together.
He's got a meat smoker
No, no. Yeah, he's got a meat smoker.
now?
But I'm kidding. I'm always kidding about that stuff. But here comes the damn thumbnails of what's going to play next. So you got to
Leave a
hit
comment.
those fucking things.
Yeah.
Cover up our faces and all kinds of shit. So until the next time when we have a new crew and new reviews, take care, everybody. Have a great weekend.